My guests tonight are three men whose contribution to music is quite remarkable and ranged from opera through the golden years of popular music to rock and roll. From opera, one of its greatest stars, Placido Domingo. From modern music, the one and only Mr. Cliff Richard. And the representative of the best of popular music, one of the legendary songwriters. This year he celebrates 50 years as a lyricist, and it's almost easier to list the songs he's not written rather than those that he has. Suffice it to say that so long as people sing popular songs, they'll sing the lyrics of Mr. Sammy Cahn. Now, my next guest was but a twinkle in his parents' eyes when Mr. Cahn was writing hit songs, yet he too could be called a veteran of show business. He started life as a rock and roll singer 21 years ago, and since then has survived every changing fashion in modern music. More than survived, he's triumphed. In that time, no other British pop singer can claim as many chart entries, top 10 records, number ones or albums as he. Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Richard. If my fan club would stop clapping.
There she is.
Which one? Yes, yes. Oh, hey, Mum. Going back to the original days, I said 21 years, in fact, you've been in the business. What, in fact, was your inspiration? What was the starting point for you as a singer?
It was Elvis, actually. I mean, there were some wonderful singers around, and even when you think that Bing Crosby, who died fairly recently, was singing as well as ever when he died. Although I recognize them as being fantastic singers, they didn't make me want to be like them. I mean, I didn't want to... Not that I probably could. I couldn't have sounded like Sinatra or Bing Crosby and the others, but they didn't inspire me. And I think there's a whole generation of us that weren't inspired by those men. And suddenly Elvis came along. And, you know, you suddenly realize that that was the sound that twigged and made us creep, the skin creep and the hair stand on end. Yeah. And so I chased that, never dreaming, I never dreamt I would actually do it.
How did you chase it? I mean, did you dress like him?
Oh, well, I couldn't afford...
Still does.
Still does.
I couldn't afford, we couldn't afford to do that in those days. I think even though they were supposed to be going through a recession, I think there's more money around to fling around on things like that, fashion, etc. But it was just a matter of doing local pubs and singing in them, you know. And if you got a picture come out in the newspaper, the local paper, and you happened to be caught going... made the whole... I mean, it was fantastic. Got extra custard at school and the girls behind the counter were helping out.
What changed you out of your Elvis image and into something else?
Well, that was really almost directly due to the fact that I worked with a really terrific TV director called Jack Good.
Oh, yes.
And when we did the Oh Boy show together, everyone asked me, was I on... We have... You probably... Well, you...
Keep me out of it.
Keep you right out of it. Although, wait a minute. I know what happens when people turn their backs these days. The thing was that Jack said he wanted me... For a start, he blew the whole thing by saying, I don't want you to sing your A side of your record. I want the B side. And if you want to be on my TV show, you've got to sing the B side. And I'm very grateful for that because it was a song called Move It, which was the first hit that I ever had. But he said to me, whether you like it or not, there is a resemblance. And I think that's what it was. I didn't really look like Elvis, but we modeled ourselves on guys like that. So therefore, you did tend to sort of stand a bit like him and you know, and the hair as well. I had the hair all swept back. And I'm not receding or anything. I just prefer it down forward now.
Leave me out of it again.
I did look in that direction, didn't I? But, and then the main thing was, he said, get rid of the guitar and get rid of the sideburns, because they were the big Elvis thing. I mean, and I still say, if it wasn't for Elvis, I would never have even started. But I had to get away from that pretty early on. And with Jack's help and guidance, I moved away from that early Elvis image quite quickly, although the press didn't let me get away with it.
They didn't?
No.
What were they saying?
Well, I mean, I was doing TV shows then, and I've still got a cutting on my wall from a very well-known newspaper that now uses four-letter words and things, saying that this crude exhibitionism by Cliff Richard on Oh Boy last Saturday, etc., you know, and you don't let your daughter go out with people like this, and that kind of thing was going on. I mean, it was just ludicrous, because there wasn't... The Shadows and I were... along with, say, Marty Wilde and Billy Fury. We were the only ones doing that kind of American thing. And they seem to want a counterpart here. And I still meet people, I've just come back from South Africa, and I meet people who are now my age, and they say, oh, when we were at school, it was either love Cliff or hate Cliff. And the other one you loved was Elvis. And there was this great battle going on for years.
Yes.
I know a lot of Elvis fans don't like me now because I I preferred him in his early days, and I've often said...
Well, but I think that was wrong, actually. He's been deified, hasn't he? I mean, I think that's the thing that I mean, a lot of people feel is a bit extraordinary.
No one is going to replace him, you see. I mean, when I think back, when you talk about nostalgia, people like myself, that's what we have is nostalgia. There's a whole generation
Leave me out of it.
I keep apologizing, Sammy. But there's a whole generation that knows your stuff, and funnily enough, I cross over because I know this stuff as well. But generally speaking, my nostalgia is when you look at an Elvis book or you hear an old Ricky Nelson record or whatever. And I mentioned the Elvis fans because I get some very bitter, real bitter letters from them. They call me things like scum of the earth and all that.
Really?
Well, yeah, only because I've been it's like my sister's a number one Elvis fan and always has been and always will be. But I can talk to her and say, but wait a minute, don't you agree that last record wasn't really that good? And that's what fans have got to do. They've done it with my record, so at least I know I'm on good ground. Yeah. I don't want my fans to buy everything I do because I've done it.
Yes.
I mean, well, no, it'd be rather nice, but artistically it wouldn't be very good. And if they do buy it, then I might go on in that direction, which might not be right for me artistically. I'd rather, and they've done it a couple of times with songs that I thought were dead cert hits. I'm leaving you out of this.
Now include me.
Hey, Mr. Dreammaker was one that no one actually bought. When Two Words Drift Apart, I heard someone say they did, but that's the one.
That's the one record.
Yeah. So, and I find that rather healthy, and I've gone into print saying this. Maybe I shouldn't say what I feel, but I felt that Elvis gave so much pleasure to millions of people, and yet when you think of the latter days of his life, he obviously wasn't having a great deal of happiness and joy himself.
You know, it destroyed some of you.
I must tell you that the first time I actually saw Elvis Presley was at the Hilton Hotel in Las Vegas. He was at the peak, the absolute peak of his life, short life. And Tita and I went to see it, and we were just jammed into a little table for one. And they made it a table for four.
Yeah.
And Andy Williams actually was sitting with us. And I saw Elvis Presley for the first time, and I tell you, it was an incredible experience.
Really?
It really was. You could understand the whole thing. And sadly enough, to take up our friend's point, about 3 or 4 months later we went back and something had happened. I think the demise had started. It was so sad.
Yeah.
You always get the feeling that, see, Elvis's fans love him. I mean, to a point of deifying, which I don't think that's necessarily right. But the fans don't get to you. I mean, maybe they do try, and they send their love in letters, etc. But it seems to me that what Elvis needed was someone who was really close and who was willing to go, that's rubbish, or that's fabulous. Someone truly concerned for the person. And it seems to me, I hope they're not going to write to me again. I mean, perhaps I'm saying all the wrong things again, I don't know. But it seems to me that Elvis missed that somewhere along the line. Well, the guy shouldn't be dead.
Missed perhaps a purpose, which brings me on to something that I've not told you about before, which I want to briefly talk to you about. It's you have this purpose, which is your Christianity.
Yeah.
What I'd like to find out from you is, did you arrive at that because you discerned in your life the gap that obviously Presley had, that you had success, you had fame, you had money, you had everything that
I didn't look at it as analytically as that in comparison to Elvis's career. It was just that at a certain point in my life, I felt, well, here I am doing all the things that I dreamed of from the time I was 14 and first 15 when I went to see Elvis movies and things. And yet after a year and a half or 2 years of doing that, I mean, it was fantastic, to be able to go on stage, sing, wiggle on the knees, girls screaming all over the place. It was great. And then suddenly I thought, well, wait a minute, and I just come off stage and I just think, well, I don't feel elated anymore. The elation is for that 1.5 hours that you're on stage, and then you're back to living again, and it's not the way it should be. I was expecting a lot more from it, and it didn't give me the full 100%. So I found that conversations kept looming round to sex, politics, and religion. And believe it or not, religion was really almost top of the list. Everywhere we went, you'd talk about it. People were talking about spirit mediums and kind of supernatural things, and religion kept coming in. So I just chased it, really. And of course, being from a sort of laughingly Christian background, I say laughingly because, I mean, I know that many people in our country, we're supposed to be a Christian country, but I know many people would say, oh no, I'm not Christian. But coming from that background, I looked towards that area rather than, for instance, waft off to the Far East philosophies, etc.
Yes.
I went straight to the Jesus syndrome and found a reality that I didn't think was there, and a rationality. I mean, the thing about it is, a friend of mine, I always quote him, he always says that you don't have to commit intellectual suicide to become a Christian. And I always used to think, well, of course you'd have to an extent. You've got to take this black step of faith. And it's not that black, and it isn't such a shaky step, because there's so much you can do reading and understanding, and it gets you to a point where you're so convinced that it's true that then you step off out into the unknown.
I mean, you've put it to practical effect in that you're part of an organisation now called TIA, which is an organisation which sends out, you give part of your money, or what you earn, to this organisation which sends out nurses and doctors and general relief to sort of stricken areas and poor areas. Was there a point, a moment in your life when you saw something that made you decide to give the money that you earned, some of the money you earned to that?
I did see some things, but I'd already got involved when I went to see the kind of way some people live. Having become a Christian, I then was terribly conscious of the fact that potentially we earn so much. And I kept thinking, I felt guilty about the amount of money that I earn. I don't feel guilty anymore. I feel very grateful. And the gratitude has made me say, right now, if you're that grateful, then some of it has to go back. Quite a lot of it really has to go back. So I do, it's a thing called TIA Fund, the Evangelical Alliance Relief Fund. And my connection now is that I'm a supporter. I used to be on a board committee, but my time ran out. And but I do a tour every year. And we do about 20 concerts, 10 venues every year. And I suppose the main reason for doing that is for raising money for TIA Fund, promoting TIA Fund, and presenting Jesus in a rock and roll way, because a lot of people still feel that rock and roll and Jesus just don't.
Well, you started these what you call rock gospel tours, don't you? In fact, you've got one coming out, I think, on To the Side on ITV on December the 19th.
Yeah, that's nice of you to mention that.
Well,
nice
is it to a very generous organisation?
And I'm not even Robert Morley.
No. Robert Morley wouldn't have waited for me to have put it in. I'll tell you, he'd have done it. What about your future, though? All that apart, because you're off to America. How do you think this lad will go down in America, Sammy, as a singer?
Leave me out of this.
Yeah.
No, I think he's going to be marvelous because, his songs are the songs that they are now buying. The rock gospel is very, very large in America. And I must say a word for some of our fellows. Mr. Sinatra, very quietly, gives a ton of money back.
Mm.
I think a lot of people in our business do it.
Crosby gave a ton of money back. Mm. I don't give anything back.
You're still waiting for yours from the telephone people, aren't you? That's the stuff he's got earmarked for charity.
What do you think about your singers, though?
Well,
people who sing your songs.
Well, you see, a songwriter is blessed. You know, when I did my songs for the producer, I'm selling the song, and I'm a lethal demonstrator, as you know.
I know that.
And I stand in front of a fella, you know, Sinatra's great. Sure, he's got a band, he's got makeup, he's got everything. I just walk in, a little guy with a mustache and glasses, look at an ugly fella and sing to him, you know? But when I sing the song, when I get finished, the fella says, I like that. And I said, if you like it, wait till you hear it sung. Because I know the singers will come by and rescue all the songs. And I've been blessed because chaps like this, chaps like Placido. Sounds like a pill I should be taking.
That's a placebo.
Oh, that's a placebo. Oh, I knew it was familiar. Anyway, but all the singers, I'm very, very grateful to them. And I tell you, a songwriter, when I came around, see, the fellows who write songs today don't need songwriters. I hate them.
They sing as well, don't they?
I don't sing as well. They just write songs, too.
Yeah. But this is where we cross over again, because I'm sort of like where Elvis was, too, although Elvis wrote quite a few of his numbers. But a lot of us didn't write. So we relied heavily, very early on writers writing our rock songs for us. The new generation came with the Beatles, etc., where they wrote and did everything themselves. And it doesn't really matter that some people don't necessarily sing in tune. A lot of people don't in the pop world.
Keep me out of it.
Because they write. And it's like Dylan as well. I mean, Dylan would never claim to be a singer, but when you hear his records, it's a total sound you listen to, and it's got its own charm. But not being a writer, I've suffered a great deal. No, I haven't suffered at all, actually. I've been really fortunate.
You had some good songs written.
Good writers writing stuff. I found songs early enough.
You're going to do a song for us now. What is this song? I mean,
well, we talked about. I thought I'd do an Elvis song
before
I knew that you would be talking about him so much. Yes.
Yeah. What is it?
Heartbreak Hotel.
Heartbreak.
The Elvis song.
It was the first one I ever heard when there was a car window parked in our locality when I was still listening to Frank Sinatra and everybody. And the guy must have left it and left the radio on, and I heard this song come out, and I thought, well, that's it. That's what I'd like to try and be.
Cliff, if you go over there and sing Heartbreak Hotel, Cliff Richard. all you Cliff Richard fans, all you millions of them, you can see him, a reminder, again on December the 19th on Southern Television.
When somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you all the way. Happy to be near you when you need someone to cheer you all the way. Taller than the tallest tree is, that's how it should feel. And deeper than the deep blue sea is, that's how it feels if it's real. Oh, when somebody loves you, it's no good unless he loves you all the way. Through the good and lean years and all the in-between years, come what may. Who knows where the road may lead us? Only a fool would say, going home, going home. But if you let me love you, it's for sure I'm gonna love you. Go, go! All the way, I'm telling you,
marvellous. My thanks, I think, to Harry Sturm, of course, and to Laurie Holloway, the musicians tonight, the other musicians as well. My thanks particularly to Placido Domingo, to Sammy Kahn, and to Cliff Richard for joining me. We are going to leave the last words, if we could stop him, with Mr. Kahn. So, would you sing us out tonight?
Will I ever?
Will you ever?
I'd be irresponsible and I'd be unreliable if I didn't name you some names. Names I feel deserve your attention. Names that help to give all of this dimension. Placido Domingo, he sang fantastically, and his voice, it sure helped our aims. My friend Richard, my chum Cliff, he was more than just terrific. He is all his press agent claims. No wonder Cliff turns on all the dames. Next, I would like to list two producers who assist: Graham Lindsay and Jill Stribling Wright. If I look at all half-inviting, just thank Michael Jeffers who handle lighting. Jim Clay, he is in design. Bishop Laggett's sound is very fine. Richard Greening has me in his camera sights. Jeffrey Wellesley on the floor. Angela Beveridge, she is to adore. Chris Greenwood made sure that we were on call. We're irresponsibly mad for them all. Fran Landsman, she researched a lot. Ursa and Bennett, they gave it all they've got. Without Kate and Eve, it all could be grim. John Fisher produced as you expect. Bruce Milliot can more than just direct, but minus Mike, this would be totally grim. We're irresponsibly mad for him. Finally, Laurie Holloway, he can more than merely play. Harry Stoller banged the gem. Oh, we're irresponsibly mad for them. We're irresponsibly mad for them. Oh, we're irresponsibly mad for them.